Authorities say torrential rains caused flash floods in the provinces of Adiyaman and Sanliurfa in Turkey.
Search and rescue teams confirm at least 15 people are dead in the latest catastrophe that hit the nation. More details on this later in the news. Good evening. I am Ricky Mathay.
And I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. remains confident Philippines can achieve 20 pesos per kilo of rice. Department of Tourism logs over 1 million tourist arrivals in the Philippines. Malawi urges global help after Cyclone Freddy kills hundreds of people. United States cautions Russia after Black Sea drone incident. And China expresses concern over U.S. and South Korean military drills.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has launched the first Kadiwa ng Pangulo program in Camarines Sur. During his speech, the chief executive expressed optimism that his campaign promise of lowering prices of rice to 20 pesos per kilo may come true. Eden Santos reports.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is hopeful that his aspiration of lowering the price of rice to 20 pesos per kilo can be achieved. In his message during the launching of Kadiwa ng Pangulo in Pili, Camarines Sur, the president says his dream will gradually come true as the government continues its efforts to provide the public with affordable goods. The price of rice in Kadiwa stores is 25 pesos per kilo. Marcos says there are already 500 Kadiwa stores nationwide and the government will continue expanding the program.
Kaya tuloy-tuloy at pinaparami na natin ang ating mga kadiwa. Lumampas na tayo sa 500 kadiwa sa buong Pilipinas. Kaya't marami tayong maganda at nagiging resulta. Makikita ninyo yung halimbawa, yung bigas, yung aking pangarap na sinabi na nung bago akong upo na sana mapababa natin ang presyo ng bigas ng 20 piso. Hindi pa tayo maabot doon. Dahan-dahan palapit. Nasa 25 piso na lang tayo. Konti na lang. May bababa natin yan.
Kadiwa ng Pangulo also aims to help micro, small and medium enterprises or MSMEs affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The launching of the project in Pili, Camarines Sur was participated by 49 farmers, fisherfolk and MSME owners who showcased their products at affordable prices. The products sold in Kadiwa stores at lower prices include onions, sugar and other products bought directly by the government from stakeholders.
Tapos yung ginawa natin, halimbawa doon sa sibuyas, ganun din. Para biglang nagtaasan lahat, na kulang sa produksyon, ginawa namin, ay dinagdagan namin para bumaba rin ang presyo. Asukal, ganun din. Umakyat yan ng 100 plus ang bawat isang kilo. Ngayon ay nasa 85 and below na. Kaya nakita kagaya nga ng sabi ng ating butihing gobernador, sabi niya, naubos agad. Talaga mauubos agad. Kaya maganda naman na kayo ay nandito at nakikita ninyo na may paraan naman para ipababa ang ating presyo.
Eden Santos for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is now an adopted son of Camarines Sur. Paulo Ramos has the details.
for all that you have done for the province of Camarines Sur, as a way of expressing our everlasting gratitude for all that you have done. Mr. President, please allow me to present to you the resolution by the Sangguniang Panlalawigan of Camarines Sur, declaring you, Mr. President, as the adopted son of Camarines Sur.
Camarines Sur Governor Vincenzo Renato Luigi Villafuerte presented to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. the resolution filed by the Sangguniang Panlalawigan of Camarines Sur, declaring the chief executive as an adopted son of the province. President Marcos visited Camarines Sur today to spearhead various programs of the administration, including the housing program under the Pambansang Pabahay para sa Pilipino Housing Project or 4PH. During his opening remarks for the groundbreaking ceremony of the 10,000 housing units in Pili, Camarines Sur, Governor Villafuerte reminded residents of the good deeds President Marcos did for the province even when he was still a senator.
Mga kapatid, gusto ko pong ipaalala sa inyo na kung hindi po kay dating Senador Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos na ngayon ang Pangulo ng ating bansa, nahati na po ang ating probinsya. Siya lamang po ang kaisang-isang senador noon na nakipaglaban, nanindigan upang hindi mahati ang Camarines Sur. Our President has always believed in the power of unity. He wanted our province to remain united. He wants our country to be united.
Camarines Sur is the home province of former Vice President Leni Robredo, President Marcos's closest rival in the May 2022 national and local elections. During the visit, President Marcos led the groundbreaking and lowering of the time capsule for the 5-tower 20-story housing units that will benefit 10,000 families or 50,000 individuals in Camarines Sur. The President says the administration's project is for human settlement and not just housing projects.
Hindi lang pabahay, kundi maayos na tinatawag na human settlement ang itatayo natin dito. Ito ay dahil layunin natin na maging produktibo ang pamumuhay ng mga naninirahan sa pamamagitan ng pagsisiguro na meron silang access sa mga mahalagang pasilidad gaya ng paaralan, pagamutan, mga estrukturang pangkabuhayan. Isa po ito sa mga proyekto ng aking administrasyon na nakaangkla sa ating layunin na mabigyan ng komportable, maayos at disenteng buhay ang lahat ng ating kababayan. Ang pagkakaroon ng sariling bahay ay pangarap ng lahat ng Pilipino na nais magkaroon ng isang lugar kung saan sila makakapagsimula ng bagong kabanata ng kanilang buhay.
The Marcos administration is eyeing to build 1 million housing units nationwide every year or a total of 6 million housing units for 6 years until 2028. President Marcos commended Secretary Jerry Acuzar of the Department of Human Settlement and Urban Development or DHSUD for the aggressive implementation of the program.
Malakas po loob ko nung tinawagan ko ang ating kaibigan, si Mr. Jerry Acuzar, at sinabi ko kung pwede ay sumama siya sa pamahalaan bilang sekretary nga nitong bagong department na Human Settlements and Urban Development. Dahil po nakita ko yung sa kanyang pribadong negosyo ay talagang napaka-successful ang kanyang ginawa. At nagulat ako, nag-uusap kami, na sabi niya sa akin, nagtrabaho pala siya sa ilalim ng aking ina nung siya ay Minister of Human Settlements nung panahon ng aking ama. Kaya't naintindihan niya yung aming konsepto para sa pabahay, para sa ating mga mamamayan. Kaya't mabilis kami nagkaintindihan. At ako'y papalad naman ako na meron akong magaling na naging sekretary. At isa pang bagay, hindi ko siya kailangan ialala dahil mas mayaman pa sa gobyerno ito eh.
The President also led the groundbreaking ceremony for the housing units that will be built in Naga City. Paulo Ramos for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Foreign tourist arrivals in the country has reached 1.15 million in the first quarter of 2023. Here is Celine Dorado for the details.
The Department of Tourism reported that more than 1 million international visitors have arrived in the country this year. Tourism Secretary Cristina Frasco made the announcement during the Tourism Stakeholders National Summit organized by the DOT. Frasco says from January until March 15, a total of 1,152,590 foreign tourists have arrived in the country. The tourism chief also presented in the summit the National Tourism Development Plan, or NTDP 2023 to 2028. Frasco says the NTDP will serve as the blueprint and guidance for the DOT on how to expand tourism's contribution to the country's economy. The blueprint also includes steps to make the country's tourism industry sustainable, globally competitive, and innovative. Amid the current challenges the tourism industry is facing, Frasco says she is confident that the DOT could achieve its NTDP targets. DOT is targeting 4.8 million international tourist arrivals for 2023. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has started reviewing the Tourism Act of 2009 to strengthen the authority of the DOT, especially on budget concerns. During the Tourism Stakeholders National Summit, House Committee on Tourism Chairman Representative Alejandro Jesus Madrona says the panel is studying if they will amend the law to empower DOT to fulfill its mandate. Celine Dorado for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Around 61 tourist destinations have been affected by the oil spill in Oriental Mindoro. The oil slick also affected 13 marine protected areas, 13 community-based tourism organizations, and 51 tourist establishments in the province. Tourism Regional Director Imimaropa Azucena Palugna says they are cooperating with all concerned agencies to assist all affected communities. Next week, the Regional Tourism Office will hold assessment and inventory in the oil spill affected areas. Data from DOT Mimaropa in 2022 shows that almost 100,000 tourists have visited the areas affected by the oil spill, which is equivalent to 1.16 billion pesos tourism revenues. Amid the calamity, the official says the land-based tourism spots and establishments in the affected municipalities remain open, although water-based activities are suspended. She added that operations and activities of tourism establishments in Puerto Galera continue. The local government in Puerto Galera also assured that they are preparing in case the oil spill will spread in the area. Tourism Secretary Cristina Frasco also assured of the department's help in affected establishments and workers of the tourism sector.
So it's an ongoing collaborative effort to manage the situation that is led by the DENR, and we're here to assist our tourism workers and our stakeholders in any way.
Commuters in the National Capital Region, or NCR, will enjoy a fare discount for public utility vehicles, or PUV, beginning April the 1st. The Department of Transportation, or DOTR, says the fare discount will also be offered in selected routes nationwide. In an interview, Transportation Undersecretary Mark Steven Pastor says fare discount will be implemented to select routes with the most number of passengers, as stated in the 2023 national budget of the department. The DOTR will coordinate with the local government units to identify the select routes that will be covered by the program. Pastor clarified that fare discount for PUV may last for 6 months due to the department's limited funding, with 1.285 billion pesos under the 2023 General Appropriations Act of GAA and 875 million pesos under unprogrammed funds. Under the fare discount, or PUV, DOTR says traditional jeepneys will revert to the 9 peso base fare, modernized jeepneys will be at 11 pesos, and bus fares will be reduced by 3 to 4 pesos. But the UV Express fare is still being studied by the agency. The fare discount will be in lieu of free rides in the EDSA bus carousel, which ended last December 31st, 2022.
Most of the senators still oppose the plan to amend the 1987 Constitution. The move, according to them, would sideline important projects and programs of the government. Mian Corvera for the details.
Insisting on changing the Constitution made derail the programs set by the Marcos administration. This was the position made by senators after the House of Representatives passed in the plenary the Joint Resolution Number 6 calling for a hybrid constitutional convention to amend the 1987 Constitution. Presidential sister Senator Amy Marcos was among those opposed to discussing any changes in this charter. Although she admitted that there are provisions that need to be looked at to keep up with the changing times, she maintained that the move is a nuisance to lawmakers' duties. She said the government should prioritize resolving peace and order concerns, including the series of violence against local officials.
Sinabi na ng ating Pangulo at sang-ayon naman kami na kahit alam natin na kinakailangan baguhin ang maraming provision sa ating saligang batas, ang totoo hindi napapanahon kasi marami tayong urgent matters katulad ng trabaho, ng inflation at mataas na presyo ng mga bilihin. Kailangan tutukan muna natin yan. Ang kinakatakutan natin maging diversion to. Baka ma-distract ang lahat ng mga mambabata sa ibang bagay. Yun lang. Pero sa tingin ko, ay magkakaroon naman tayo ng pagkakataon pag-usapan yan sa lalong madaling panahon. Pero supuin muna natin ang matitinding problema ngayon at napakahirap talaga. Yung mga shortage sa pagkain, medyo urgent yan. Yung mga issue ng peace and order.
The senator doubts the real purpose of the lower chamber in pushing for Chacha. In a statement, Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri says if congressmen want the economy to recover, there are laws already enacted to encourage foreign investment in the country. He mentioned the Public Service Act, Trade Liberalization, and Foreign Investment Law, which allows 100% foreign ownership in micro, small, and medium enterprises. Senate Majority Leader Joel Villanueva called on the executive branch to release the implementing rules and regulations of the said laws. Villanueva says the result of these measures should be seen before passing another economic measures. The National Economic and Development Authority is supportive of the Senate's position. During the hearing of the Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendments and Revision of Codes, former NEDA Secretary Ernesto Pernia says there are no funding sources for the CONCON. He added that the country is currently indebted to 13 trillion pesos.
Comprehensive economic partnership. Kailangan i-push rin yun kasi malaki ang makuha natin dyan sa sa trade agreement among these countries in the RCEP. Maybe in company or even maybe we can postpone the CONAS later. Unahin nato itong mga apat na magaling na mga provisions for the economy. Unahin natin and let's see what happens. And then if kulang pa rin, then let's go to CONAS. Let's do the Constitutional Assembly. Or they can be together. They can be done together, one after the other. Pero definitely, I would oppose, like many others, going to the CONCON because it's very expensive and it's also going to be time-consuming.
Some senators have not made up their position on Chacha. Senator Francis Tolentino says the PDP Laban is set to discuss the matter on March 21. Aside from Tolentino, Senators Robin Padilla, Rona De La Rosa, and Christopher Bongo are all members of the party. De La Rosa says he is in favor of amending the Constitution, but he may change his mind if other provisions of the Constitution are open aside from economic provisions.
Sabi ko nga, if magiging exercise in futility ito, dahil nga hindi kami makakuha ng numbers, so I might as well go with the majority. Pupunta doon. Pero ngayon, kasi nga nag-file kami ni Senator Tolentino last Congress ng amendment amendment to the economic provisions. So Baka sabihin ng tao na masyado namang mabilis si Bato nagbago. Limit tayo sa economic provisions. Kung granting ha, matutuloy ito. Pero doon pa lang sa mode, ay may problema na tayo eh. Ang gusto ng House is konkon. Ang gusto naman ng Senado, through Senator Robin Hood Padilla, gusto niya is kunas. Kasi magastos daw ang kunkon, ilang bilyon gagastusin yan. So hindi na kami nakakaintindi dyan sa mode pa lang.
Mean Corvera for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Embattled Negros Oriental Congressman Arnulfo Teves Jr. once again requested the House of Representatives to extend his travel authorization for another 2 months. In his letter to House Speaker Martin Romualdez, Teves pleaded to grant his request, citing the very grave threat to his life and his family. The lawmaker also assured that he will return to the country as soon as the threat is dealt with according to the laws and with the aid of the government. The House Office of the Secretary General has stated that Teves's travel authorization for his personal trip to the United States from February 28 to March 9 has already expired. Since his continued stay outside the country is unauthorized, Congressman Teves is now considered absent without official leave or a wall and unable to perform his legislative duty. Meanwhile, the House Committee on Ethics headed by Congressman Ferimon Espares has given a 5-day ultimatum to Congressman Teves to explain his continued stay outside the country. Espares says the committee will send communication to Teves to get his side on the matter.
The Bureau of Immigration warned Filipinos against call center trafficking scams abroad. Immigration Commissioner Norman Tancinco issued the warning after a female victim fell by the scam and got repatriated from Thailand. She was a former online gaming company employee in Pampanga. The victim was recruited through social media by a Filipino national identified as Mel and one as Sam to work in a call center in Thailand where she could earn thousands of dollars a month. But in order to get compensation, a roughly converted 330,000 Philippine peso quota should be reached. Also, the catch was that the victim should work at least 12 hours a day without a day off. The victim was able to seek help from the Philippine Embassy in Thailand and assisted her in repatriation back to the Philippines. The Bureau of Immigration further said Filipinos must be wary of unscrupulous individuals offering immigration services on social media. Coming up, severe floods in quake-stricken Turkey claim at least 14 lives. The United States warns Russia after drones shut down. And China expresses concern over U.S. and South Korea military drills. Find out when Mata ng Agila International returns.
This portion is brought to you by Final Match Security and Investigation Agency. This portion is brought to you by 318 Automart, Arlex Trading and Construction Supplies.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Earthquake survivors in Turkey face a new catastrophe, flooding. Flash floods have claimed the lives of at least 15 people who had been living in tents and container housing. Many more people have been swept away by muddy water, which turned streets into murky rivers. Torrential rain fell on the region over the past 2 days. The flooding has swept away cars and inundated temporary housing with water. Search and rescue teams are on the scene, but weather conditions have hampered their efforts. This latest calamity is worsening an already desperate situation for people in the region. The February 6th earthquake, which hit Turkey and northern Syria, left more than 54,000 people dead.
Malawian President Lazarus Chakwera appeals for world support to tackle a national tragedy unleashed by Cyclone Freddy. This as he visits areas ravaged by the exceptional storm.
Malawi is in a state of disaster. What Cyclone Freddy has done is to pull us back even when we were trying to rebuild because of past tragedies. And I appeal to the international community to please look at us with such favor because we need help. We need help in terms of people that have been rescued, who have lost everything, needing what is necessary: shelter, clothing, food.
Rescuers scrambled to reach survivors in the commercial capital Blantyre after Freddy smashed into Malawi and neighboring Mozambique. Freddy triggered floods and landslides that killed nearly 250 people.
The death toll from a landslide in a remote Indonesian island has risen to 50. And as search efforts wrapped up Wednesday, officials say 4 people are still missing. The landslide struck the island of Serasan on March 6, burying houses in a village under mud and debris. At least 8 of the dead are children. Nearly 3,000 people remain out of their homes. Several emergency shelters have provided them with accommodation. Many are afraid to go back because there are total blackouts in some villages. Meanwhile, just outside of the capital of Jakarta, heavy rain triggered a landslide in the city of Bogor. At least 2 people are dead and 4 others are buried under the mud.
Pentagon has released the first declassified footage from the surveillance drone that crashed over the Black Sea. In the 42-second video clip, the Pentagon claims a Russian jet made 2 high-speed passes. The U.S. military says the jet sprayed fuel on the drone. During the second pass, Pentagon further claims the fighter jet collided with the drone. However, the said collision cannot be seen clearly in the video. Pentagon explains that collision took the American drone's camera feed down for about 60 seconds before it went back online. When the video is restored, one of the drone's propellers appeared damaged. Russia has denied downing the drone, saying it lost control and crashed as a result of a sharp maneuver.
Joint Chiefs Chairperson Army General Mark Milley tells reporters as a recent pattern of behavior shows there is a little bit more aggressive actions being conducted by the Russians. Milley says recovery of the drone that the U.S. says was downed by Russian aircraft will prove difficult.
Repeat, we know where it landed in the Black Sea. It's probably about maybe 4,000 or 5,000 feet of water, something like that. So any recovery operation is very difficult at that depth by anyone. That's the first point. Secondly is, true, we don't have any ships there, but we do have a lot of allies and friends in the area. We'll work through recovery operations. That's U.S. property, and we'll leave it at that at this point. But there is a pattern of behavior recently where there is a little bit more aggressive actions being conducted by the Russians. We think we haven't completed our analysis as to why that's happening. And it wasn't just involving us. There was some incidents earlier with the British and some other nations as well.
Now, I just got off the phone with my Russian counterpart, Minister Shoigu.
Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin vows that U.S. aircraft will fly wherever international law allows. Austin warns Russia to cooperate with caution after Tuesday's incident over the Black Sea when 2 Russian fighters allegedly harassed an unmanned U.S. surveillance drone and damaged its propeller, forcing its ditching in the waters below.
Now, I just got off the phone with my Russian counterpart, Minister Shoigu. As I've said repeatedly, it's important that great powers be models of transparency and communication. And the United States will continue to fly and to operate wherever international law allows. And it is incumbent upon Russia to operate its military aircraft in a safe and professional manner.
Russia's relations with the United States are at an all-time low. Russian spokesman Dmitry Peskov dismissed the idea that the two sides could turn things around halfway through U.S. President Joe Biden's term in office. He said that the bilateral relations are probably at their lowest point historically and that there is no hope for improvement in the foreseeable future. U.S.-Russia ties became even more strained last year when Russia invaded Ukraine. The United States provided Kyiv with substantial economic and military support that drew condemnation from Russian officials. Russia-U.S. face-to-face talks were called off between Biden and Putin, who last met in person in Geneva 2 years ago.
Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin says that the military drills of the United States and South Korea have made a negative impact on the situation in the Korean Peninsula.
近期，美国等持续在地区举行大规模联合军演，不断加大战略武器出动频次，向他国转让核潜艇。上述动向对半岛局势的消极影响令人忧虑。当前半岛局势需要的是灭火降温，而不是拱火浇油。有关方应坚持政治解决方向，走上缓和矛盾、重启对话的正道。
Wang asserts the current situation on the Korean Peninsula is highly complex and sensitive. He also insists that all concerned parties concerned should do more things that are conducive to peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. Some analysts claim China did not directly criticize North Korea for its missile launches or its rapid pace of tests. Sources say Beijing supports Pyongyang's narrative that its military activities are necessary defensive measures against Washington and Seoul.
China has put out the welcome mat for foreign visitors. On Wednesday, Beijing began issuing tourist visas with a major easing of travel restrictions in place since the pandemic began. The move marks the latest step toward reopening China to the outside world, as well as new visas. Those issued before March the 28th, 2020 will remain valid. The updated policy will allow for the resumption of visa-free travel for those arriving on cruise ships to Shanghai. Visa-free travel will also be available to certain tourist groups from Hong Kong, Macau, and countries within the ASEAN regional grouping. China received 65.7 million international visitors in 2019 before closing its borders during the pandemic.
South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol arrived in Japan on Thursday, looking to open a new chapter in relations. Yoon's state visit happened hours after Pyongyang fired a long-range ballistic missile. He criticized North Korea, saying its nuclear missiles are posing a threat to the peace and safety of the international community. Meanwhile, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida announced the resumption of shuttle diplomacy with South Korea. Yoon and Kishida also agreed to regular reciprocal visits to build confidence. Kishida asserted strengthening Japan and South Korea ties in the current strategic environment is urgent as there are looming threats in the Asian region.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz renews his call to support Ukraine by sending them fresh ammunition. Scholz emphasizes the importance of immediate supplication of munition to Kyiv's force. Sources say Ukraine's western backer is facing a howitzer shell shortage. They add at least thousands of shells were fired each day against Russia. Ukraine told the EU that they need 350,000 shells a month to be able to launch their counter-offensives. Meanwhile, the EU countries are managing the placement orders for their support. Sources say the countries hope to agree on a €2 billion plan for Ukraine's munition. Up next, United Kingdom unveils cost of living budget as mass strikes hit the nation. Dengue treatment advances in monkey trials. And rescuers scramble to save 10 miners trapped underground in Colombia. Find out more about these stories when Mata ng Agila International returns.
This portion is brought to you by Robic Builders, Quezon City Motor Vehicle Inspection Center. Magsasama-sama ang best and the brightest ng Net25 para sa first Net25 Golf Cup ngayong March 20, 2023 in Alabang Country Club. Pangungunahan ito nila Tito Soto, Vic Soto with Aga Mulak at makakasama rin ang iba pang mga stars ng Net25. Register now. Please call Vian Amion at 0917-322-8369. Limited slots only. Sign up and let's net together on a golf course.
Gaano na nga ba kalawak ang pinsala ng oil spill sa kalikasan, kalusugan at kabuhayan ng ating mga kababayan sa Oriental Mindoro? Ano naman kaya ang ginagawa ng ating pamahalaan para mapigilan at mapanagot ang mga taong responsable rito? Ang investigasyon na ginawa ng Responde, Mata ng Mamamayan, ibubunyag na. Ngayong Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi, dito lamang sa Net25.
Britain has unveiled a new cost of living budget, including more help on soaring energy bills. To tell us more, here's Eribel Celestino in London, United Kingdom.
Britain on Wednesday unveils a new cost of living budget, including more help on soaring energy bills. But the government is set to stand firm on rising public sector pay demands as country endures a fresh wave of strikes. Finance Minister Jeremy Hunt delivers his tax and spending plan to Parliament from 12:30 GMT as teachers, junior doctors, civil servants, BBC journalists, and drivers on London's Underground Tube Railway staged the latest day of mass walkouts. Public and private sectors workers show little sign of ending strike action that began last year when rocketing inflation slashed the value of wages. UK inflation remains at about 10%. The government on Wednesday said it would extend a subsidy on energy bills for a further 3 months after the invasion of Ukraine by oil and gas producer Russia sent them surging. The Conservative administration has meanwhile flagged increased childcare funding and other proposals aimed at encouraging parents, the over 50s, and others back into jobs market. It is looking to fill 1.1 million staff vacancies, in part caused by a lack of EU workers following Brexit and owing to a record number of people classed as long-term sick. United Kingdom, this is Arabel Celestino for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Thousands of striking teachers, doctors, and civil servants take part in marches all over London. They say no new offers on public sector pay were announced. From UK, our correspondent Jordan Kaisison files this report.
London Underground train drivers, teachers, civil servants, and doctors joined in striking on Wednesday in a mass stoppage as Britain's finance minister unveiled his tax and spending plans. With hundreds of thousands walking out, it was expected to be the biggest single day of industrial action since a wave of unrest began last year. From nurses to lawyers, workers hit by a cost of living crisis have been striking across the economy, pitting unions against the government, which insists big pay hikes are unaffordable and will only fuel inflation. Alongside salaries, which workers say have not kept up with inflation, other issues include conditions, job security, and pensions. Other groups who walked out on Wednesday included UK university staff and BBC journalists in England.
None of us who are here today from our school have wanted to come here and give up teaching hours or, sacrifice essentially what's the learning time for our students. But the message has to be clear and, there has to be a line drawn somewhere. So I hope that after today that, the government will respond, although I must say I'm not overly optimistic given what the pictures look like nationally.
We're saying there is a crisis in education. There is. Teachers are leaving the profession. And if we don't make a stand now, it's only going to get worse. We want to do this for the children, to make education the best in this country it can be.
The strike by train staff in the ASLEF and RMT unions in London left the entire underground train network at a standstill. Government departments and the border force were also hit by a walkout of an estimated 130,000 members of the PCS Civil Servants Union. PCS General Secretary Mark Sawatka said it was a scandal and that some of those administering government services are now so poorly paid that they were forced to rely on handouts themselves. He added the spiraling strikes could no longer be ignored. This is Jordan Season reporting for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
An alarming report by the World Health Organization reveals that the world is off track in achieving its target of reducing salt intake by 30% by the year 2025. Rosel Feria tells us what the health agency says will save lives from excessive sodium intake. Take a look.
Did you know that the daily salt intake recommendation by the World Health Organization is less than 5 grams? That is 1 teaspoon per day. But a WHO report says the global average salt intake is more than double its recommendation. WHO says eating too much salt makes it the top risk factor for diet and nutrition-related deaths. More evidence shows links between high sodium intake and increased risk of other health conditions. These include gastric cancer, obesity, osteoporosis, and kidney disease. WHO calls on countries to establish sodium content targets for processed foods and enforce them through policies. WHO's 4 best buy interventions related with sodium, which greatly contribute to preventing non-communicable diseases, include reformulating foods to contain less salt and setting targets for the amount of sodium in foods and meals, establishing public food procurement, policies to limit salt or sodium-rich foods in public institutions such as hospitals, schools, workplaces, and nursing homes, front-of-package labeling that helps consumers select products lower in sodium, and behavior change communication and mass media campaigns to reduce salt or sodium consumption. WHO says that at present, only 5% of its member states is protected by mandatory sodium reduction policies. In Washington, D.C., Rosel Feria for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
SARS whistleblower Jiang Yanyong has died of pneumonia at the age of 91 years old. The former military surgeon was praised for saving lives after writing a letter that revealed Chinese authorities' cover-up of the SARS epidemic in 2003. Jiang endured house arrest at one point for his unwavering outspokenness. His revelations forced the Chinese government to admit it had provided false information and spurred the World Health Organization into action. SARS infected more than 8,000 people worldwide in 2003.
Johnson & Johnson's drug company Janssen reports new treatment from monkey trials might prevent and treat dengue. Janssen's Marnix Van Look says they injected a high dose of J&J 1802 in rhesus macaques monkeys. Their results give data on which it halted a viral replication from the host. However, further results show that the injected compound only manifested a preventive effect rather than treatment. Studies say the dengue virus can be transmitted by infected mosquitoes. The infection has still no viable cure as researcher develops vaccines to counter it. Meanwhile, pharmaceutical companies develop vaccines. One dubbed as Dengvaxia is approved for use in some countries and is effective against a single strain. While last December, a new vaccine called Qdenga was approved by the European Union and is consented by Britain and Indonesia.
Search and rescue workers in Colombia are racing against the clock to save 10 workers trapped in a coal mine. An explosion at the mine has killed 11 people. Oxygen in the pit is running out fast. The miners are trapped some 900 meters underground. Family members waited outside the mine for news of their loved ones. They stood outside a barbed wire fence, watching as a machine pumped water out of a mine shaft. The blast happened when a spark from a worker's tool ignited accumulated gases late Tuesday. Workers from 4 nearby mines rushed to the scene to assist with rescue operations. Some workers managed to make it out safely. Later in the news, what triggered Silicon Valley Bank's fallout? NASA unveils prototype spacesuit for New Moon mission. And The Little Mermaid reveals first full trailer. Stay tuned, Mata ng Agila International will return with more stories after this break.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. May lalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
The collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, or SVB, sent shockwaves globally. But what really triggered SVB's bankruptcy? Analysts say the California-based bank failed for it held big accounts of government bonds. These bonds plunged in value when the U.S. Central Bank or Federal Reserve raised rates. And when SVB announced it was trying to raise money, it triggered a run from the depositors, which led to its collapse. Some sources say many of SVB's clients were startups, venture capital firms, and rich tech founders. When venture capitalists raised funds and invested the money into startups that banked with SVB, billions in deposits flowed to the bank. As rates went up, the value of these assets dropped. Yet, as long as the assets were held to maturity, the paper losses did not register on SVB's balance sheet. As time passes, they would indeed mature, which roll off the balance sheet altogether. When the tech boom faded, SVB startup customers started to ask for some of their deposits back. The bank needed cash to return to depositors, but it could not sell held to maturity or HTM assets. The reason? The losses on HTM assets will wipe out the bank's capital entirely. Hence, analysts say SVB sold its $21 billion in bonds from its available for sale securities portfolio last week. It took home a $1.8 billion loss. And the rest is history. U.S. regulators continued damage control, and European authorities promised their exposure was limited. But bank stocks crashed, with some economists saying gold once again proved itself a safe haven.
The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, and Axiom Space Company unveiled their new spacesuit prototype. This is for the upcoming Artemis 3 mission to the moon in 2025. Sources say the new design has special features to support astronauts. They add that it is designed more efficiently than their existing spacesuit of 1981. The new suit helps astronauts in conducting their scientific experiments on the lunar surface. NASA explains that the suit fits better for female space travelers. In 2019, NASA had planned to assign an all-female astronaut crew to complete a spacewalk from the International Space Station. But the assignment was canceled due to lacking spacesuits in their size. NASA further describes the importance of spacesuit design as it supplies oxygen to the astronauts. If the design fails, it may lead an astronaut's lung to expand rapidly, causing death.
FIFA will implement changes in the 2026 World Cup to be held in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. According to FIFA, they've approved the expanded format of 4 to 8 participating teams, which will be divided into 12 groups. One of these changes is the game expansion, in which the previous 64 matches will be set into 104. FIFA assures all participating teams will play a minimum of 3 games, receiving balanced rest after every game. The FIFA's council meeting approved the amendment at the 73rd Congress in Kigali, Rwanda, whereas Gianni Infantino was re-elected today as its president until the year 2027.
The Little Mermaid reveals its first full trailer. The clip gave a fuller glimpse of Ariel, played by Hailey Bailey, and Jonah Howard King as Prince Eric. Melissa McCarthy's sea witch Ursula was also seen with her swirling black octopus tentacles. Other characters were also shown, such as Sebastian, Flounder, and Scuttle, voiced by David Diggs, Jacob Tremblay, and Aquafina. Javier Bardem is also in the movie as King Triton. The new film is a live-action version of the 1989 animated classic The Little Mermaid, which won 2 Academy Awards for Best Original Song for Under the Sea and Best Original Score. The new Little Mermaid swims into movie theaters in May.
And for your Thursday night insight, here's a quote from American educator Stephen Covey. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities.
And I 100% agree.
And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Ricky Matay.
And I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.